We've got that video for you now. I want to go to that video because the administration is digging in on this issue and is unlikely to change voluntarily.
Should be reconsidered.
No, there's not a debate. I think as was noted initially, and I said again earlier, that we want to work with organizations for the next year to help them deal with the implementation of the policy. But the decision has been made, and it was made after careful consideration.
Well, the administration may want to reconsider because Congress is not going to go along with this new mandate. In fact, there's a lot of activity on Capitol Hill to try and undo this mandate and send a very strong message to the president. And I'm pleased to welcome one of the leaders on this issue, Congresswoman Ann Marie Buerkle from New York. She represents the 25th Congressional District there, previously served as the Assistant Attorney General of New York from 1997 to 2010. She is also a registered nurse, and you've also been active in the pro-life community for a long, long time.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
And you're a co-sponsor of the legislation against this mandate in the House. How does it look, Congresswoman, in the House for passage of something that could reverse this mandate?
Oh, I think we're extremely optimistic, and I don't think you'll see the House rest until something has been passed out of the House to the Senate that repeals this rule. Either we'll defund the rule or some pass a conscience clause. Really, it's an assault in this instance on Catholicism and their teachings and beliefs. But every American, Tony, every American should be so concerned with this rule because this is the largest assault on our constitutional freedoms and on the principles that made this country the great nation that it is, the foundation that we've ever seen in the history of this country.
Is this something that's been building from this administration? This maybe initially it was indifference, but I have to describe it as hostility toward religion in such a bold move like this.
We've seen other indications. We and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee had a hearing. HHS actually denied a grant application to the Catholic Conference of Bishops.
We haven't brought that up tonight.
Regarding human trafficking, a grant that they've had for years that they've administered so well in providing services for victims of human trafficking. And for the first time, the criteria to receive that grant money, you had to provide or refer to for abortions, contraceptions, and sterilizations. And that was a new requirement that this administration put in. And so the Catholic Church, although they scored second highest out of 9 applicants, they were denied that grant money. So we've seen this unfolding, this hostility towards religious freedom, but this is the most egregious, and this one is the one that should, every American, whether you believe in God or not, regardless of, you should be incensed that this administration and Kathleen Sebelius would assault our First Amendment rights.
But let's dissect this for just a moment, because as you just talked about the grant for human trafficking, which the Catholic Church has been involved in and done a very good job. They would rather have substandard care for those people than have an organization that refuses to kowtow to their pro-abortion agenda. But that's not the only place. We go back to the, shortly after you arrived, the CR debate, the continuing resolution, which continued the funding of government. The president was willing to shut down the government over funding for Planned Parenthood. And now you have this mandate that if these churches and religious organizations do not want to comply, there'll be no coverage for their people. So they would rather people go without this health care coverage than exclude this mandate to advance this pro-abortion agenda.
That's exactly right. This was an administration, and I don't know how many Americans really understood that at the time, that was willing to not give our troops overseas what they needed, all in the interest of protecting the funding for Planned Parenthood. It was a very significant, they drew the line in the sand over Planned Parenthood funding. So that was astounding to us. And then it's continued on since. But this is the most egregious. This really, they have crossed the line on this issue, and I am so proud and pleased to see the Catholic Church and all religious faiths saying this is too much.
What about your colleagues? Is there a kind of locking ranks on Capitol Hill in opposition to this?
Yes, there really is. And this morning, the female members of the House, the Republicans, had a conference, and actually 3 of us in the freshman class are nurses. And I'm so quick to point out this is not a woman's health issue. And be careful,
Very good.
it's not a woman's health issue. This is about a fundamental right, a constitutional right, our First Amendment.
But there are some on the other side of the political aisle that are trying to make this not only a political issue, but a woman's health issue. I've heard say you're trying to deny women a basic right. Well, I don't how do you get there to say that by not forcing religious organizations to subscribe to this radical policy that's somehow or limiting somebody's rights?
Well, one of the reasons I ran for Congress was because of the health care law. Being in the health care profession, I understood that this law was not the right way to go and that it was actually an overreach of the government power. And if you recall the president in his famous line, if you like your insurance, if you like your plan, you can keep it. Well, that's now out the window with this rule, with this HHS rule. But it's over the top. Every American should be so angry and so ready to fight for their fundamental right in that First Amendment.
Well, Congresswoman, let me ask you, what can our listeners do across America who are listening to this right now? What's the best thing that they can do to make a difference?
They can call their representative in Congress. They can call their offices and tell them to support the First Amendment right, the right to free speech. I mean, that's just fundamental to who we are as a nation, and to make sure that their senator and their congressman know that that's the way. This just isn't some rule or regulation that's being foisted upon the American people. This is a violation of our fundamental right, and every American should be involved. Every American should let their voice be heard.
Congresswoman Ann Marie Buerkle, thank you so much for being with us, and
Thank you,
thanks for
John.
your leadership on this issue. It's so refreshing.
Thank you so much.